Welcome to Takeoff, a Points and Miles podcast by 10X Travel. I'm your host, Bryce. Today, I'm joined by Travis, and we have our guest, Neill Drake, with us to talk about business spend, Antarctica, credit cards, penguins, whatever else comes up. We'll be all over the place. But as always, gentlemen, how are we doing this afternoon?
Yeah, doing great. You know, I've got a question for Neill.
Yeah, go ahead.
Was the Drake Passage named after you?
I always tell people
relation?
when I get on board, because nobody believes my name is Drake, so I actually hold up my passport, and I always say, if it's a really good Drake Passage, you're welcome. That's me. I did that for you. And if it's a really bad Drake, I had nothing to do with it. So my dad's big into genealogy, and he's tracked Sir Francis Drake, who's named after, into our lineage somewhere way down there. I don't have my Spanish fortune hanging around anywhere, but my dad swears he was part of the family. So, yeah.
I love it. Well, listeners, Neill is the gentleman who is helping us with our 10X Travel Antarctica trip, which is happening in February of 2027. There's actually still beds available. There's a link in the show notes for it. It's kind of all over our website, hard not to find. But if you want to come on an Antarctica cruise for, 10 days, 11 nights with other Points and Miles junkies just like you, hopefully we get to Drake Lake. But no matter what, we're going to have a lot of fun. And Neill and his team put that together for us. And we will be talking a little bit about that, but mostly about business credit cards and how Neill's company uses them to help give you a perspective of how business owners should think about using credit cards really within their business, almost as a component of their financial setup, if you will, maybe strategy at some level. So we're going to talk about numbers and earnings and preferences and kind of just hear about how Neill does it for his company and anything else that comes up. So here comes an icebreaker question, which I feel like is appropriate for this setup. And Travis, feel free to jump in here with any of two. But I'm curious, Neill, in your expeditions, what is the single coolest moment, event, observation that you have seen with your own human eyes?
I get this question all the time, and there's two answers, right? There's what I call the selfish answer, the greatest things ever happened to me, and then the selfless answer, what is sort of the most magical thing? And we have this one passenger who's come with us on about 5 expeditions now. Her name is Debbie. I dropped Debbie off. I was driving the Zodiac, and I dropped her off on the continent proper on the first trip she ever did. But because of the weather and where we were, we had 10 foot of beach that we could land people on, so that we could actually get their feet onto the actual continent itself. And I dropped her off, and she was the last one off the Zodiac. And she turned around and she said, if it weren't for you, I would have never gotten here. And I was like, oh, Debbie, you're so sweet. Thank you. And then I turned my Zodiac around, and I'm crying, driving. The tears are they're frozen in my face. Yeah, it was a really emotional moment. And there's a lot of those. So for me, there's the penguins, there's the whales, there's all the kind of stuff, but it's the experiences that we deliver to the people and their dreams coming true that it's the most magical of all of it. Little kids touching snowballs, it's so fun. But the best thing that ever happened to me, I was by myself on my Zodiac one day taking photos of some kayakers, and a pot of orca came up, and they just looked at me and they were like, "What's up, dude? Welcome to Antarctica." And I was just blown away. That for me was a highlight for me. And if my wife is watching, I got engaged in Antarctica, so I said what I said.
There we go. Check the box. Actually, a quick, potentially dumb follow-up question, but if you are in kayaks and you encounter orca, is that a dangerous situation?
Nope. They are, orcas are so spatially aware and intelligent that it's the least of our concerns. There's never been an orca incident ever. We're supposed to huddle up, get together, just stay in a small group so that we're not spooking them or anything like that. But the orca know exactly what they're looking at, and they're not even a little bit concerned. So when you see feeding humpbacks and stuff, they can get lost in the moment, and you do want to be really careful about that. Orcas, no, I'd swim with them if I was allowed to.
Okay.
So, yeah, not at all. So
I don't know if Neill knows this. I'm sure our audience knows by now. So I went to Antarctica for the first time this year. So mine is not nearly as sentimental as Neill's, and mine is maybe just some of the harsh realities of Antarctica, and obviously a lot fewer experiences than Neill has. But mine was, we were doing a Zodiac cruise, and we were lucky enough to come across not one, but 3 leopard seals feeding on penguins. And it was emotionally really challenging because you feel bad for the penguins and you're not there to interfere with nature. But all of our guides said when they rarely see them actively feeding, they're lucky if it's one, and maybe it lasts 5 minutes. But one of the leopard seals was just like very bittersweet, playing with its dinner, and we sat there for about 3 hours just watching them, like all 3 of these leopard seals going. So it was sad because you feel bad for the penguins, but our guides, like, and to Neill's point, like the guides are something that people don't talk about a lot because they helped us understand how rare of an opportunity that was for us to get to experience that and see that. And even though it was bittersweet, it was really cool.
So let me ask you, because I tell this to people all the time. Let me ask you, this happened to your Zodiac. It went from that whole like, no, I don't want to see a leopard seal eat a penguin. And then you were counting how many they were getting. You were like, get another one, do another.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the lion and the gazelle after a little while where you're like, all right, you're really, yeah. So, oh, that's awesome that you got that. That's so good. And that's actually the time that we've scheduled our trip with the 10X group. It's a great time to see that. So sorry, foreshadowing, you might see some penguins getting eaten. So, but, oh, that's awesome. Yeah. And for those who don't know, Bryce and I have been talking about the possibility of doing Antarctica trip for a few years, and it was never really on Bryce's radar because, like, you guys had launched the app. You were so busy, right? You had launched the My 10X. You had launched, like, you know, your basically your wallet, the 10X wallet.
Mm-hmm.
And then when Travis went to Antarctica and you came back, Travis, you were talking about your experience. I hit up Bryce, and Bryce was like, now it makes a lot more sense. Let's do this. Like, so
I heard about the eating of the penguins, you know.
The catalyst that got us to get the conversation going and like pull about it. I've been flirting with Bryce. I took him to the movies. I took him buy him coffee.
Oh yeah,
like all.
I left you on red for
No,
too
I'm really
long.
excited for the trip, and I'm really excited for the opportunity to share you guys because at the end of the day, like, yeah, Antarctica is amazing. You had a great experience. I've been guiding there, but we do have a business. We run an agency, and I think, you know, we're big travelers. We're big point hackers. So I was really excited when you guys came up with the opportunity for me to talk about my business and my credit card strategies and how I maximize points and stuff. So it's a kind of a great balance between the two. We get to talk about our Antarctica trip, but also some, you know, 10X related stuff. So I'm happy to jump into it with you guys.
Absolutely, yeah. So let's start there. Can you tell us about your business, Neill? What's it called? When did you start? Kind of what is the origin story of everything?
We don't have enough time on the podcast for the origin story, but I'll give you a little bit. So the company's name is Antarctica Travel Group Incorporated. And the reason that that's the name is because it was never meant to be a business. Basically, I started a Facebook group a few years ago, exactly like you guys have, exactly like the 10X community. And it was a place where I was guiding on the ships and I was getting off and everybody was sending me friend requests. All the passengers wanted to be friends with me. And after a while, my Facebook didn't become my Facebook anymore. And I wanted to sort of like, Travis, are you friends with some of your guides on Facebook?
Like 75% of them.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
it became to the point where after like so many years of doing this, I couldn't keep track of my friends anymore. I didn't remember somebody. So I kind of made up this Facebook group so that I could sort of consolidate that. And I would just say to people like, hey, do you join the Facebook group? We can stay in touch. We can share photos and all that kind of stuff. And then people started joining the group who hadn't been to Antarctica and they were seeing us sharing this content. And they were like, everybody, they were asking, how did you go? Who did you book through? And then people started saying, talk to Neill. He knows, he's a guy. He might be able to point you in the right direction. And at the same time, one of the companies I had switched over to guiding with had in their employee handbook that if you brought anybody to the business, you would get a referral fee. And I was, at the time, I was a backpacker living in a van in South America for like 5 years. I wasn't making any money. I just got out of the military. I was just kind of like, I was doing like workaways and staying in hostels to get free room and board. So for me, that was a good amount of, that was like some money I could start doing. At the same time, my buddy wanted to come to Antarctica with me, and there's like agency agreements. When you book a certain amount of people, you get a free bed. So I was hustling in other Facebook groups, and I was kind of just bringing them all into my group. And slowly, my group just went from like 2,500. You guys saw the exact same blow up, like 2,500 people, 5,500 people, and now we're at 50,000, which it's a much smaller niche. It's not the 500 plus thousand you got, but it's a small niche. And then we just kind of became the go-to center of information for Antarctica. And through that, and the same way, you know, you, Bryce, and your team are active in your group, like you become what I call an authoritative voice in the industry. And that has given us the reputation to continue to be now the agency that we are. But I think that our edge is that as an expedition guide who's been over to Antarctica over 100 times, I have experience that the travel agencies usually don't have, right? They're reading from manuals and books and pamphlets. And I'm just like, oh, you want to know what it's like in February? I literally will screenshot from my phone. Like I'll go into my Google Photos and I'll show that like the date of the trip. Like people are like, are there still penguins at like in the end of February? I'll go through my phone and I'll be like, February 21st, 2021. I'll screenshot that and I'll send it to them and be like, that is from my cell phone on that day. Anybody who tells you otherwise is lying to you, because I have the experience. So our company, when we first started, we were really focused on group trips. That was a really good part of it, because Antarctica was a destination and I've sort of been the product because of the expertise that I have and like the way we lead trips. So I've had guests have always asked, is Neill going to be on this trip? But I don't say that to sort of like pat myself on the back and like say I'm the best in the world. It's more that these people really just want to go with some sort of guidance and like a familiar face, because it's such an out of this world experience with so many uncertainties that a lot of solo travelers, they want to have familiar people nearby. And that's why we got a lot of group trips together, so that they could sort of be with other people. They don't want to show up on this trip and like not know anybody. So we started with the group trips. We started with that. Then we started moving into like kind of agency sales. Now it's just like a regular agent where we can just sell a bunch of different trips, but we still stay in the group trip space, but now we do it in the charter world. So we do small groups here and there, but now we're booking out full ships and we're doing charters because our audience has grown so much. And then phase 3 has been working with partners, and we've worked with Challenge Athletes Foundation, the Hash House Harriers, and now with 10X. And that's sort of the next phase, using our experience as having hosted many charters before, working with audiences that have like communities such as yourself. I've had Goldman Sachs reach out in the past and they've wanted to do a sustainability charter in the Arctic, you know? So we've gotten to the point where it's no longer, we are still bringing our own clients and our own trips, but now we want to share our knowledge with other people who just, they want to go to Antarctica, but they don't even know where to start. We take care of it for you. And that's what our team is all about. We do all the heavy lifting. So it's a little bit of everything. We've got a hat and everything. So that's the rundown of it. Yeah, that's how we kind of got started. And then I've got my team now, and we start growing to the point where Ricardo is my right-hand man. You know, you've met him in a meeting before. Without him, I couldn't be who I was. I always say it's like Spider-Man, right? Like you watch the first Spider-Man and Tom Holland is running around. He has no idea what he's doing. But Ned is in the chair in the office telling him where the bad guys are and how to use his suit, doing all that kind of stuff. Rico's my guy in the chair, and he's been like my rock solid, like, you know, co-pilot through this whole thing. My wife works in the company, which we'll talk about. That's a big thing on business spend, having a partner as part of our company. And yeah, we're a team of 8 now. So we went from me doing this.
8. Wow.
Yeah. Wow. I was doing this in a Volkswagen bus in South America 6 years ago, and now we're a team of 8. So yeah, it's been fun. That's the rundown of it. That's sort of how we got to where we are in a nutshell, sort of keep it condensed, but
love the story and the overlap with our own journey. And yeah, super glad that we're making it happen. It sounds like thanks to Travis's Antarctica trip and amazing stories and in photos when he came home. But yeah, I want to talk about the business card spend, the strategy, how you kind of think about that, especially with a company evolving at that rate, 8 employees. I guess, can you tell us, like, when did you kind of get into the world of points and miles? Like that came onto your radar as like, oh, this is something that can be of value to me, especially with a growing company with presumably spend that's starting to increase as well.
So it's funny because actually one of your most active members in your group told me all about 10X when she was a passenger on her trip. And if she's watching, Jennifer, thank you so much for introducing us to 10X. But points had always been something that was sort of on the back of my mind. But as a military member, my bank, you know, I've always been with the same bank forever. And they don't have a great reward system. And it seemed like a lot of mental bandwidth to try and like capitalize on it. And I still think it is. But somebody had, I thought that I knew what I was doing. And then I met this woman, Jennifer, on my Antarctica trip. And I was bragging about how I got this like super cool redemption. And she was laughing at me. It was like the worst thing in the world. So I would so she goes, have you heard of 10X Travel? And I was like, no. And like that day I joined and I did the course. You know, everybody goes, did you take the course? Yeah, took the course.
Yep.
I perused. So
there's no pop quizzes today, thankfully.
So then one of my other passengers, her name is Valerie, she's local to where I live. And I typically don't like always go out and get drinks with our passengers, but she was local and she's a big 10Xer too. So then when she started, you know, we started talking to each other about it. Then we had somebody that we could like send referrals to and stuff when things pop up and you got your friends, you want to help them out. And so once I started seeing the community, and then I started seeing like, oh, your friend has joined the 10X group. I'm like, oh my God, you're a 10Xer too.
Oh, here we go. Yeah.
Yeah. So then you can talk about it, you can learn. So a lot of it comes from, obviously your group is full of information and it's so much information that I just have to kind of tune it out. the course is about as robust as you can get, but it's very community driven. I like the bragging, I like the learning and that kind of stuff. So that once we sort of took the business, became more serious, and it was like, I remember like the first thing I do was pay for my website. I was like, oh crap, you have to pay for websites. It's like,
Yep.
So then like, all right, what card do I do that on? And then like then I got an accountant, and then I got a bookkeeper, and it's like, oh, so it became, it's a lot all at once. It's a lot, but the credit card spend has been, invaluable to get to, build points and use them when you need strategically. So
yeah, and I'm guessing you have quite a bit of spend. Can you walk us through, like, what does a typical month look like? Business spend, like what are some of your business expenses? How much of it goes on cards? Did you have to kind of fight it all to get these folks to accept cards? Because I imagine that is probably coming up in your industry as well. Just like what does behind the hood look like, ATG, from a spending standpoint?
We're a seasonal business, just like, you would expect. So for us, I would say the biggest bulk of it for us would be travel. And the biggest bulk of it would be, like our CRM, our Google admin, the email addresses, like all that kind of stuff. A lot of the behind the scenes software, I guess you could just call it, QuickBooks subscriptions, cell phones, internet, all that kind of stuff. So, the standard utilities that you would go with. But the biggest one for us, and I understand that everybody's industry is a little bit different. The biggest one for us was we shifted about 3 years ago from our model used to be, Travis, you go to Antarctica, let's say you booked through us, we would just send you an invoice and your payment would go directly to the tour operator. And then when the season was over, the tour operator would just they would cut us our check. Now we've gotten to the point where we made some negotiations where, Travis, you would pay us, and then we pay the company, we settle up with them at the end of the year, and they take credit cards and they don't charge us a credit card fee.
Ooh, you might be creating a lot of competition.
By myself. Yeah.
So, and it kind of works for everybody in that sense, because we register as travel, they register as travel. The clients, the companies are, some of them are in the Netherlands, some of them are in Copenhagen. So they get to do US directly to us and like work with us on that. We take Stripe, Venmo. A lot of times they want to pay with Venmo. They want to pay with Zelle, and like you can't pay Zelle that way, right? So it's gotten to the point where we've been able to take some, and it's not for all the operators, it's mainly just the one. But through that, we've been able to get a lot of spend because they register as travel. And that has been probably the most valuable part for us in a couple different degrees. Yeah, we're earning points like crazy, but it's allowed us to get status also. Like I can get, like, we're executive platinum. That takes me 3 weeks to get my annual executive platinum spend. But I would say like our credit card spend on like a non-season, like off season, April, May, June, somewhere around there, like we don't pay for advertising, stuff like that. I'd be anywhere between 10 and 30,000. When we slide into the season, we're somewhere between 200 to 500,000 monthly on spend, because that's the Antarctica trips that we have to make good on. People pay deposits ahead of time. And then November, December, January, February, March in the season, when they're having to make their full payments because they have to pay 90 days in advance, they're paying us, and then we're paying it off with the companies, and we're paying, I would say on one of the companies, it's somewhere between 1.5 and 2 million would be our credit card spend by the end of the season. That would be about an average for us.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
You hit something that is a little bit unique to business owners, that is something I try to get them to think about, is the difference between being like an individual and a person. And the difference between being an individual and being the company is honestly, like being a business, you can have just a lot more natural business spend. And that's the time when some of those opportunities to earn status, to earn extra perks can become really valuable. For your average casual traveler, we often discourage people from pursuing status because you aren't going to get the value and the opportunity cost of earning those points elsewhere. It just isn't worth it. But for a business, you can funnel a lot of spend to a lot of places. And like the typical strategy of going after sign-up bonuses, you can kind of just run out. And so it's about finding those additional opportunities to get further perks, like it sounds you have.
We understand that everybody's business is different. If you're a sole proprietor and you just have a small business, you're a sock company, you're making bracelets, you're making plant hangers and stuff, like you're not going to reach that kind of spend. I totally understand that. But there's there's creativity to it. There's, you have to stay within the guidelines of the IRS and stuff like that. And that's a fine line a lot of us can, will walk. And as long as you do it, you justify it correctly. You want to make sure that you're capitalizing on every single bit of spend that you can. And some people, I think it's important to also get with a good accountant, a bookkeeper, and a CPA or CPA, and see what can you take as a write-off. Like what's within the eyes of the IRS code that allows you to take a write-off, So what you might not think is a business spend could be a business spend. Are you, taking advantage of everything that you can? And like you said, we have one card, for example, where we can rack 3x on travel up to $150,000 spend. So I hit that $150,000 spend. And then I go to the next card because that one doesn't do me any favors anymore. And then I get my status with this card, and then I move on to the next card. And then a sign-up bonus comes along, and I go on the best card list and see if this is a good one for my journey. And then you kind of go from there. And then, like I said to my employees the other day, like I just got a new card, and it was like, I had to $30,000 spend to get my sign-up bonus, and like we got that pretty quickly. But then if you did like a $200,000 spend, you got Southwest, what's it called, like a flight credit, and then you got status with IHG or something like that. So then I said to my lead guy, I said to Ricardo, I was like, all right, dude, we need to sell a lot more of this company because we got to run more credit card spend through to get this. So we're
like the mindset down.
I'm talking to my marketing girl. I'm like, okay, we're going to push this company because that's the one that we can do the spend on. Now, one thing, Travis, you make a good point, is that there was a conversation that we had internally that the company that's not charging us credit card fees, I could very easily go to them and say, hey, look, you're not charging me these credit card fees, even though you're paying them. Can we negotiate? I'll pay you bank transfers from now on, and you up my commission as what it would be for the percentage that you're paying on credit card fee, and take the cash in hand. So I was like, because there's that conversation to have also. But I thought to myself, okay, if I make a $10,000 Antarctica sale, which is a pretty standard pretty cookie cutter one, and I get that extra 3% back, I'm getting $300 extra in commission, but I'm getting 10,000 points if I put it on my card. I can do, because of what I've learned from your group, I can do a lot more damage with 10,000 points than I can with $300. And a perfect example, as soon as this is over, I'm going to the airport, I'm hopping on a flight to Green Bay from San Diego. The flight was $495. I got it for 9,000 points.
Wow.
Where's the balance, right? So, but then there's also, and this is a whole other conversation to be had, and I think this is one of the points we're going to talk about, is where do you do business spend and where do you use the points, right? Like you want to, as a business owner, you want to have write-offs, and travel is a great write-off. And, thankfully for me, I own a travel agency, and my wife is a W-2 employee in my company. She works in sales. So for us, travel spend is a little bit easier. And I need to get to the point where I need to get more write-offs because we're a more successful business. But if you're a sole proprietor and you're not making, big numbers every year, you don't, for me, it's like if there's a $1,200 flight and it's like 80,000 points or something like I'll take the business spend for that because it's a tax write-off because we travel for business. So I don't want to waste my points on that. Where if somebody who doesn't, because you're getting a dollar for dollar tax break on that $1,200 flight, you're getting a 35, 40, whatever your tax bracket, 25, 35, whatever your tax bracket is, that's your deduction. So if you're a small business owner, you're not making that kind of money, you're going to want to use your points because you're not going to spend that kind of money. You use your points strategically in that sense. And the same thing, just because I need tax back doesn't mean I spend $400 on a flight that I can get for 9,000 points.
Yep.
There's, you have to, penny wise, pound foolish. I need tax money, but 9,000 points. And we have status, so we're flying first class.
Yeah, that's,
that helps. That helps.
That's a really interesting perspective that I think a lot of business owners can gloss over sometimes, is how points can give you leverage within your business, right? Like you mentioned, if you're a smaller business or a startup and you're trying to preserve as much capital as possible, the points you earn can let you stretch every dollar further. But once you become more established, it can kind of just be an extra perk of doing business. It can be a way to enhance that return. You're not so worried about saving the cash as much because you might want the write-offs. And so it can have a different journey in different stages of business.
Yeah. And the points that you earn from business card spend, or really any spend for that matter, really you can think of as a personal asset. like those accrue to an individual in most cases. And like if you want to use those to save money on for your business, for travel, or however you want to redeem them, like that's of course a business strategy to consider. But in a way, you're almost like subsidizing the business. It's like if you're a solopreneur, fine, like it's kind of all your money, it'll wash out in some regard. But things do tend to get tricky when it's multiple partners involved, and it's like, I'm going to pay cash for my trip to Green Bay, but Travis, I need you to use your points. And then there's that weird dynamic of like, well, those are my points, right? So I guess but the question for you, Neill, is there anyone else in your business who's involved in kind of ownership, partnership level you have to think about those kind of things with, or do you have kind of a nice clean setup where Neill is the business and the business is Neill?
Yeah, so I'm the sole owner of it, and then so for me it's not as complicated as that, right? We don't have partners, but when you talk about partners and people in your company, one thing I wanted to touch on too, it's a great way to show appreciation to your employees too. Like Rico and his fiance, like he crushed it for me one season, and I was just like, go have fun in Europe for 3 weeks and go to the Arctic. And we put him on a trip to the Arctic, points, but put him and his fiance in hotels and on flights using my points because we had some to spend. And sometimes you just don't want to blur the line. Like he's traveling with his fiance. Mm-hmm. Is he really part of the company? I could do it for Rico, but I couldn't do it for him. So, you kind of can use, that's another good way to do it, is you can always sort of like, show your people that you appreciate them if you got some, surplus of points to get rid of. And that's another super valuable asset to it, because it's, it keeps the lines between business and pleasure sort of clean.
Yeah, absolutely. It certainly gets more complicated when you have partnerships, 2, 3, 4 people own a business, because a lot of times points are not just easily divisible among individuals. The company has a card, one person has to kind of open that as the primary. The points accrue to that person's account, but it's not like you can just click a few buttons at the end of every month and be like, all right, divide this point value among these 3 people. Like there's often fees for that, or if it's even allowed. So it certainly works out cleaner in situations like you described with one person kind of running the company. But that's a difficult problem for a lot of other business owners, and most of them, in my experience, opt for cash back in that case, because that is easier to split up, and it is tax free if it's coming as a credit card reward. So I'm glad to hear that you're in a more clean situation, not like the messy ones we sometimes see.
And it's good for you guys to bring this up, because like these are conversations that should be had. Like if I were to take on a partner or something like that, like that's part of the conversation you need to be having. And I can't stress enough how
it's a quick conversation, Neill. It's welcome to the company. The points are mine. Don't ever ask for that.
Points, never heard of them. Never heard of them.
Yes, memo of points understanding.
Everything's on my debit card. Yeah, I know. So.
Oh man, yeah, we would be on a plane right now to come and have an intervention.
So you're right, 100%.
Yeah, I want to circle back to earlier. You kind of mentioned, like in your kind of journey into discovering points and miles, you mentioned a common phrase that we hear. It's like, that looks like a lot of work. Business owners tend to be, quite busy. They got a lot of fires going on, a lot of things on their mind. Of course, they have to interface with accountants and bookkeepers and such, who are not always thrilled about the idea of having 6 new credit cards a year and re-adding everything to QuickBooks and resyncing everything, right? So I'm curious, how do you kind of balance like the administrative and mental load that goes into thinking about like the points and miles setup you described versus like saving, like, simple is easier, let's focus on the business. Like, do you actively think about where to draw that line?
I do, to a degree, think about, where my cards, which ones I'm going to spend where, but I'm not to the point where like, I've seen in your group, and I think they're awesome, little Etsy stickers you put on every single card. This one's for gas, this one's for restaurants, this one's for pharmacies. I don't go that deep down into the rabbit hole, and I'm fortunate enough that we sort of have a surplus of points because of our spend, so I don't have to think about it in that degree. But I love the way I see it in the group. The stacks are my favorite thing, and I love to compare it to the it's like the extreme couponing. Remember that show, Extreme Couponing? It's extreme couponing over points. It's like Rakuten, whatever you call it, Rakuten.
Yeah, Rakuten.
Right, it's stacking on top of what's the GoPuff on top of this, and then they're like, I got my groceries and made $12. I'm like, I love to see it. I love to see it. I don't go down that rabbit hole so much, but what I do is, when I get a new card, I usually for 2 reasons we get a new card. Either I know the airlines that work the best for the routes that I fly the most, and I'll usually get that card if there's an opportunity to get a new card, or there's a really nice sign-up bonus somewhere, and I'll take advantage of that. And then I'll go through it and I'll read and be like, I'll sit down with the pamphlet with my cup of coffee and see where am I getting the most points. So like one of them is like, if one of my points gives me the best on software or like Google Admin, like I'll use that one and I'll go and I'll set it up on auto pay and I don't need to think about it anymore. I know that I get certain points on travel and that's most of what our spend is. So I'll use that one until it's capped out. But I don't necessarily, like when I go to the gas station, I'm not thinking like, which card am I going to be using? I'm more like, I'm more chasing status at this point with the spend than I am chasing like 67 points at the gas station, right? I'm trying to get that spend up to get that status. For as much as we fly and how much we got to be between places, it's more valuable for us to go that route. I really do wish that I had the brain bandwidth to do it because I think it's it's nerdy and I love nerdy. You can see I'm a little bit of a geek back here, like these kinds of things.
Yeah.
Like, but it's at some point you have to turn it off. The only thing is the spending for me is way worse than the earning.
Like, yeah, redeeming your points and miles.
The redeeming, yeah. I'll be on rabbit holes and I'll go every single day. And I got to the point where I was like, I used your service probably like 8 months ago. Yeah, I had a redemption. I don't remember who did it for me, but I was actually trying to get Rico and his fiance out to Europe. And I was like, I don't have the time for this. I have a girl in the office now. Her name is Nikki and she's into this also. So sometimes I'll lean on her and be like, hey, could you just take care of this for me? Like, where do I get the best spend? But then sometimes I just think to myself, like, you've got so many points and you're like, you're wasting hours of research over 10,000 points. Just book what makes the most sense.
Yeah. Which is like an hourly earning probably, especially during, the booking season for you.
That's it. The spending is way more complicated than the earning. And I totally understand small business owners and I totally understand the people who love to stack and hack, finding every point that they can get. But like, I don't do the gift card spend. I don't have the brain power to go do the gift card spend. And anybody who does, I tip my hat to you because it's a lot.
That's a very different mindset that I certainly see in business owners. And when I'm talking to business owners, I try to encourage them is understanding that like you're probably going to spend more time trying to optimize the value than the opportunity cost of your time to maximize that value is probably not worth it. And I know that it sucks to be paying more points, but sometimes you know, especially in your case where you're traveling a lot, you might be willing to pay a lot more points for a, nonstop from Buenos Aires back to the US rather than going from like Buenos Aires to Chile up to New York, then flying over to California just because it saves you points, but it might take an extra day or two. So it is a very different perspective for business owners where you have a bit of that luxury that you don't have to chase the best value. You can often use it to save and get what you want and be a little bit more redemption agnostic, a little bit less focus on the highest value and more on just getting what fits your needs.
And there's two different types of spend too. There's leisure spend and then there's business spend. And I kind of like sometimes we don't decide where we're going to go and then figure out how to get there for the best value. I'll see something in your group about how good a spend is and all of my wife will be like, you want to look at this. Look how cheap this is. And like we went to Japan and we stayed at the Grand Hyatt, the one that they filmed the movie in, the
Park Hyatt. Yeah.
Yeah, the Park Hyatt. Yeah.
Lost in translation.
Lost in translation. And it was like $1,200 a night or it was like 26,000 points. It was like no brainer. Super easy. And like we never on our radar. Wasn't wasn't obsessed with the movie or anything, but we see it in your group and then we're like, we knew we were going to Japan. So so there was no like, I got to figure out where I'm going. Where am I going to get the best spend? I was like, that sounds cool. The points sound good. Sounds like a good deal. Let's do it. We could have stayed at a different Hyatt for a little bit less, but it's like, let's have some fun. And that was more of a pleasure spend, right? That was like, we're flexible to do that. But in the business world, sometimes you have to go somewhere. You have to go to the factory overseas. You have to go to a business meeting somewhere, and you don't have the luxury of necessarily choosing the destination based on the deal. You have to find the deal for the destination that's predetermined. That's where it gets a little bit confusing. And sometimes I sometimes just pay the money because I can't think about it anymore. I think one of the big things too is that once you become an established business, your first few years are going to be really uncertain. So you're not going to get a really good feel of what your point earning each year is going to be. Like now we kind of have an idea of what we're going to earn. So I don't think about it in the long term for hoarding. I just think, what am I going to spend this year and I'm likely going to make about this year? So if you realize like, okay, I can earn 2.5 million points in business spend this year, and you're in August, you're in September, and you want to go on a trip and you've still got 600,000 points left over, maybe that isn't the best redemption in the entire world. It's like, and I'll just take advantage of this one. It's there. It's clean. It's a good flight. It gets me where I want to go. It's a good route, slow, so you just spend the points because you know the new year is going to be coming in anytime soon. You're going to be making new points on the next year. So you got to think what's your, like Travis said, like, where is the diminishing returns on it? Where is the brain bandwidth like capped out at? Where are you just burning time in that sense? So, I hope every business owner gets to that point. I understand we're in a fortunate position, but it's a balance between hoarding, capitalizing, and then just spending it and enjoying it. And I got to get better at spending and enjoying it, honestly.
Yeah, you're talking to the right people. We can help. Yeah, I guess a quick follow-up question on that, and one that I'm always curious with business owners is, do you have like a point in your mind where like the incremental value of more miles in your account is so low that you consider switching to cash back? Kind of like, I have millions of miles in this particular program. The next million, and I'm not going to spend for at least like 3 years. They'll probably be devalued. So therefore, I'm going to switch to like a card that gives me cash back so I can get value now.
I hadn't for a while because for me, it was kind of like a game, just to like see my point mile go up and up and up and up and up.
Wait, points and miles are a game for you? That's so strange. Have you ever met anyone else like that, Travis? I think,
it's like you got to catch them all. It's like Pokemon. Like,
oh, for sure. Yeah.
There's a new card out there. It's not for everybody. I totally get it, but it's a crypto card. You get 4% Bitcoin back on the card.
Oh, wow.
So if you believe in crypto and if you believe that it's going to continue to grow, that's the next one. Because for me, 2.5% cash back versus points, I've always told myself I can do way more damage with the points. But now that we're on it, but yeah, there's this, the 4% back on Bitcoin starts to look a little bit more attractive. If you believe in Bitcoin, I mean, I'm not advocating for crypto.
Yeah,
it's gone up.
Yeah, today's a tough day to be recording this. That 4% is immediately gone in the market. Same kind of mindset though, right? Like value now versus like what would the value of these points be in 3 years? Yeah, and that's something that when we talk to business owners, they almost feel like they're like saying a bad word to me. They're always like, sometimes I opt for cash back. And I'm just like, me too. Like if you have enough points to cover your travels for the next like 18 to 24 months, and you're going to earn points at a rate that is going to keep on going, it makes absolute sense to switch to something where you can get like cash now. Maybe use it in business, use it for your personal life, use it to, buy whatever. But there's a point in which hoarding does not make sense rationally. Right. And yeah, a lot of people have a kind of a catch-all card, especially at like your levels of spend. I mean, if you're comfortable sharing, Neill, like what is like a typical points balance for you? Like on an average day, how many points do you have? Is there a threshold where you start to feel like, oh, I'm getting short, or do you put much onto that at all?
Yeah, no, I would say like on the low end, probably like 500,000. And then by the end of the season, we're somewhere around like 200 or 2.5 million, I would say would kind of be where we're at, and we're spread across all cards. Like we use your list. Yeah. So I'm kind of spread out everywhere. And that to me is a little bit of extra, like, kind of brain damage going on. Like I've got points with this partner, this partner, this partner, this partner. Yeah. I put out a spreadsheet once and it was just so much. And I was like, oh, but then, and then what happens is like we have, there's a transfer bonus with an airline that I like to use a lot, right? Like, and then we had the whole, the Hawaiian and the Alaska thing was going away, right?
Yeah.
So I sent so many points over to Alaska because I fly a lot of American and you can't earn American that easily. You can't build them like you can everybody else. So there was a transfer partner that had a really good send over to Alaska right before it went away. And I sent them all over, because I knew that I could make those other points a lot faster. I couldn't make the Alaska points. Yeah. And when we fly between our homestead and Chile, American has always been our best route. It's easy for us, and I think they give you a very good redemption. So I was able to get them over there, use them on American, and we have a status. So that was sort of it, right? I do something that all 10Xers will tell me I shouldn't be doing. Like I've seen it in the group, like, how dare you? Like it was
here we go. Yeah.
Like it's against the ethos or something like that. Like it's a commandment. Like I have the Amazon 5% card back. I don't take Amazon points. Like I get 5% back on Amazon. I spend a lot on Amazon. And every year when I've got like a $2,000 gift card and I'm like, like that 3D printer, I would have never paid $1,200 for. I bought it with my Amazon cash back because it felt a lot better. Like, so that's that. So it's the same sense as the cash back, and I'm okay with not getting those points because I've got them somewhere else. So yeah, yes, I do kind of opt for cash back in certain things, and
that makes
If
sense, right? Yeah.
If it makes you feel any better, I also have an Amazon card, and when I shop on Amazon, I just get my 5% for that same reason. It's like by the time, because like any other card, I'm just getting 1 point on Amazon, maybe 2. By the time I redeem that, and like usually I'm getting 2 to 3 cents per point on my redemptions, I'm effectively breaking even. So it honestly, sometimes things like that in the points journey, right? And I'm not even a business owner here. This is just like in my personal side. What I have learned is when I started, I was in that over-optimizing journey, and now it's just what works for me. Like, where is it worth my efforts to optimize? Where isn't it? And like my list of cards on Amazon was so long that even just trying to remember which card was which was obnoxious. So it's just so simple now. It's just, it's going on the Amazon on that card.
Yeah, I think most people in the hobby go through that phase of over optimization. Like, I'm going to get every single point out of it. It becomes a game, and like that's great. You'll learn that way. And I think a lot of people feel guilty as they kind of transition to that later phase that Travis is describing, where it's like, yeah, this is easier, and like the incremental value is just not worth my headspace. And like we always try to encourage people, like that's okay. Everyone kind of goes through that phase, and you don't have to feel bad about it. And it's particularly noteworthy for business owners who are spending hundreds of thousands of dollars in some months. Like, you don't have to sweat the small stuff. If you are like, to draw a comparison to like a personal, like financial situation, like if you're pretty comfortable financially, you don't have to keep driving all over town to look for the cheapest gas and like clipping all the coupons. You can just choose to kind of take that as like a mental break, and that is okay. Like we encourage you to do that. Get back to running your business, like, focus on the Antarctica cruises and the things that are driving value for you. And if you leave a few points on the table because you didn't have the right sticker on the right card that day at Panera, like everything's going to be okay.
And it's like, it's great to hear it from you, who's like the mastermind behind all of this. And like, I'm sure the viewers are watching will be like, that's not what we thought. I thought we had to give. And I think it's important to understand too, what your travel goals are, right? There's, I've seen in your group, when you've got a family of 6 and you're going away for like a 2-week vacation, and I'm watching these people spend 700, like 1 million points that they've been hoarding for like, a year. I won't say hoarding, but like working really hard to earn to buy their whole family this vacation. Like, I'm not gonna knock that at all. If you need to like maximize every single point because you have kind of a large family and you want to do something that you would never been able to do on the financial side of things, especially for a small business owner who's not getting that kind of spend, like I am totally on board with that. And I commend you for it. I think it's awesome to see that. Then there's that one guy in your group, he went like a 187-day trip. I forgot what his name is, but he's
I remember that post.
He's a legend in your group, and he's got he's got like funny shirts, like ask me about my points or something like that. He's always in first class, but he puts it all together and he gets the best redemptions in the world. And I wish I had what he had out of it too. So if you're like, if you've got a travel goal, like you want to go to the Maldives with your family, you want to go to Japan with them, you want to see all this kind of stuff, and you need every point you can get because you're not financially there, like that's worth all of the brain work. But if you're, like you said, a business owner and you're doing spend for mostly business travel, like my wife and I don't have kids and it's just us. So for us, we can be a little bit more flexible. And like one thing that we never really spend points on is hotels. And the main reason that we don't spend points on hotels is because we travel kind of like by the fly. Like we can just kind of, pick it as we go. And a perfect example is like we went to Greece a year and a half ago and we just showed up in Athens and kind of figured it out from there. And people can't travel like that. But we just were like, we got to Athens, we talked to the receptionist, what island would you recommend? Where would you go? You can just kind of hop on a ferry for $40. You don't have to like plan every single thing. But I'm a big believer in like hotels give you really good discounts in the last minute. Like we booked a room in Mykonos, like private pool out back, like in our place, all this kind of stuff. Like $1,200 a night was the cost. We were the night before, we got 3 nights there and we paid $275 a night.
Wow.
For just last minute bookings. And you have to be flexible. And yes, you're maybe not going to get the exact hotel that you wanted. You got to be okay with that. And we're okay with that. But like for me to have to go through and like find all the redemptions, and perfect example, Ushuaia, where we're going for Antarctica. there's really no point spend down in Antarctica in Ushuaia. You can't. Sometimes you can't. And if you travel a little off the grid, and I think it's really nice to find boutique-y kind of places. I'm like Genius Level 5 on Booking.com, and then some of the credit card portals, like the one that we booked in Mykonos, we booked it on the Fine Hotels and Resorts program, right? We booked it through there, and they gave us the same discount that Booking was going to give. And we got the 5X, and we got the $100 credit, and we got the free upgrade, and we got the early check-in and the late checkout. So if you can be a little more flexible with it, you don't need to worry about hoarding all the points for the hotels too. Do it on a little bit of a flexible side. And then with the flights, the points for me have always been valuable when I I just decided yesterday that I have to go to Green Bay. So like, that's why the flights are so expensive, but the miles were so cheap. So the goal of the spend is important to realize what you need to earn to be in a comfortable position on both sides of it.
Yeah,
well,
absolutely.
And one of the nice things too, you mentioned, there's not many points hotels in Ushuaia, and I definitely learned that it doesn't mean that the points and miles game can't help. We ended up staying at this place down there, Araker. I have no idea how to pronounce it. It was incredibly nice, but we booked it through one of the bank's travel portals. You're not getting the best redemption, but it still allowed for us to save and honestly like have a really nice, comfortable hotel down there after a lot of travel to get there. We're so used to going east and west, we forget how far that is to go. And so, that's another place where trying to focus on maximizing could be a block and get in your head too much instead of saying, how does this help me get the travel goals that I want? Like, I need to go to Ushuaia to get on my trip to Antarctica, and I want to be comfortable when I'm down there. So what hotel can I book through the portal? It might not be the highest and best redemption, but it also means I didn't have to pay that money.
You should have heard Bryce try to pronounce the name of that city the first time.
Oh man, I'm so glad I'm not covering this segment. Yeah,
say it again.
Well,
say it again. Say it again.
Ushuaia. Yeah,
Ushuaia
there with A advantage.
Ushuaia or something.
Ushuaia. Yeah,
I love doing that. No, and Travis, it's a great point, because I remember maybe it was about a year ago, somebody posted in the group, and they got like chastised. They just got slammed on it. They basically said like, there's a portal program where if you book directly, you get like 50, it's like a 50% reduction, or you get whatever they think. And like, we've got this ingrained like point to cents ratio. Like, we all know what a good redemption is. We all know anything over 2 cents per point or 2.5. What is the threshold nowadays? I don't know.
Yeah, it depends on the program, but yeah, it's in that ballpark.
Yeah. So like, they're like, if you're not getting this exact amount of redemption, you should be booking cash anyway. But like you said, Travis, that hotel is probably $600 or $700 a night now with the inflation that happened in Ushuaia. We used to get it for $200 a night. Now they're up to about $600 or $700 a night. And yeah, you stay there for 2 nights, you're at $1,400. And if it costs you 100,000 points that you kind of have a little bit of surplus of, like, spend it. Just spend the points.
Always.
You're not going to miss them next year. A redemption doesn't need to be super sexy to take advantage of it. If it's just, because at the day, money is money. And if you think about, all right, well, I could have put that $1,000 away, and if I earn, 8.5% on that, and that compounds over 30 years, like, what's it worth? So
yeah.
But you maximize that a bunch of different ways. It's a balance between what is your mental workout worth and, what are you sitting on points wise? I totally understand.
Yeah, and all made a little bit easier for business owners who have high spend. And it's not like, oh, if I book this, I can't do that other trip. It's just like, I can book all the trips that kind of come up, and you don't have to kind of like do all the math of like, oh, well, could I kind of higher value later, whatever. Factor in the time, factor in desire. If you want to optimize for cents per point or value per mile that you redeem, we can do that. But you might be flying to somewhere you have no desire to go, and like, yeah, you can post in the group, my cents per point value is 9.8, and I did not even want to go here. But it's like going to Costco and be like, I saved a bunch of money on ketchup, and I don't even like ketchup. Like, what's the point? Real quick on Ushuaia, I'm saying this right?
Yeah.
You probably travel back and forth between there on points, maybe more than anyone on the planet, would I dare say. Do you have any tips for folks coming from the States to get to and from, where to stay? And you mentioned American earlier, might have the best routes, but yeah, which we know.
I'm a big believer in, like, first, obviously your best card list is there for a reason, and I would utilize that. And I know that the people who are booking are going to have a little bit of, they're going to have a consult with your team. But my best suggestion is it's too early to see what the flights look like because we're so far out from the trip. But I would figure out which route worked the best for me before I decided what points I was going to go after, because you may be I saw somebody, just to save points, it took them like 43 hours to get there to save 5,000 points, because that was the loyalty program that they were a part of. So you obviously want your most flexible ones. You want the ones that you can transfer the most. But let's say airline X is just doesn't have a great transfer program. Like I said, American doesn't have a great transfer program, but for us, it just ends up being the best. Like, so we got those, we worked with their point system for that specific route. My advice is also give yourself a day or two in Buenos Aires, just in case, and I would not try to worry about getting points between Buenos Aires and Ushuaia. The flight is so cheap between the two. When you book it the day it goes available, don't even think it's so much easier to use your point redemption between the states or wherever you're coming from to get into Buenos Aires. And then from there, just pay the cash to get down. People want to save. Again, this goes back to what's it worth to save every single dollar paid, but for like $200 round trip, and you don't have to worry about transferring points and all this kind of stuff. And it doesn't work the same there. And we're providing the hotel for everybody specifically because we know it is not that good of a point program down there to get any hotels down there for budget wise. And I know your community enough to know that let's just give them the hotels. They don't even need to think about it. Let's just take one part of the plan away. If they do want to venture out after the trip, this is why we're not doing a charter flight. A lot of times charters will do charter flights. We don't do charter flights specifically because we find that our audience is really a lot more adventurous than the average traveler that comes down there. A lot of them come down, do Antarctica, go home, and they want the charter flight. A lot of our people want to see Buenos Aires. They want to go to Mendoza for the wine country. They want to go to Patagonia. They want to do that kind of stuff. They're going to be like, we're, I don't know if you know this, but we are right around Carnival during our trip too. So, so people might want to go through Rio, go up to Salvador. They go up to Olinda. So we don't do the charter flight because we want people to not feel like they're glued to that specific route. They can get down to Ushuaia a couple of days early, go do some hiking, go do some fishing, stuff like that. So my advice would be, like, to kind of wrap it in, is that don't think too far in advance about hoarding a point until you sort of know the flight that's going to work best for you, and then kind of work off of that and get that loyalty program, because then you can have time to build status with that company as well, so that would be, you got a year and a half or, almost 2 years to start working on building some status and getting some, then you get your upgrades, stuff like that. That's my advice.
Yeah. Good tips all around. I have a couple more kind of, rapid fire questions about kind of your use of business cards. And then we want to finish up by talking about like the trip and our company's partnership and all that. But for the quick questions on business cards, what's one thing you wish you'd known when you started using business cards for points?
That bookkeepers and accountants are very expensive.
There we go. Yeah. Is that a spending category? Is QuickBooks have a credit card?
Having to go into my QuickBooks every time I add a new card, add the card and all this kind of stuff. Now, one thing I really wish I knew was that I wish I'd known about 524 beforehand. I didn't know about it, so I got locked out pretty early in the game.
Any mistakes that jump to mind that you made, and it's like, oh wow, watch out for that thing? From a credit card standpoint,
I think getting greedy on the transfer bonuses and having points parked in places you're not going to really use them as much, perfect example, and I will kind of use it, right, is one thing I talked about, like British Airways, for example, right? Like I said, American is our best route, and getting American points is really hard. And we kind of talk about American points I can really only earn at like 1 point per dollar spend when you're not doing startup bonuses, unless you're spending on their flights, which I'm not, because I'm using their points. But then I actually posted this in your group one day, and people were like, oh, like a light bulb went off. When you book an American airline flight through British Airways, through Avios, you like a 18,000 point flight with American might be like 36,000 points with Avios. But because of the transfer program, I actually can earn Avios at like 3x. So yeah, it's costing me more points, but I'm earning those points at the same rate I'm ordering or earning these with the same amount of spend. So I wish I had caught on to that a little bit earlier so that I wasn't spending more on this loyalty card, because if it's costing me more through the partner, but I can earn them at a faster rate, then it's actually a net positive. It's costing me less dollar spend on my card to earn the same flight. That would be what I would say would be something that I wish I'd learned a little bit earlier. And now I kind of get the hang of it because then there was a transfer bonus. Like, and then if you get a 30% transfer bonus over to Adios, now it's cheaper for me to get it. It's cheaper for me to spend more points to get the same flight. That makes sense.
Yeah. And like, to be clear for everyone listening, this is another kind of common misunderstanding. It is literally the same flight, the same seat, the same plane. It's not like, oh, it's an equivalent on a different airline. No, it's literally the same seat with a partner booking.
And they honor your status and the same thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That arbitrage is something that people don't think about. They think about it on the redemption side of which program can I transfer to redeem for less, but they often don't think about it on the earning side. And it really is the full equation.
Right. And that was something I wish I'd learned earlier, because I spent so much time hoarding those American flights at almost like $1 per point. And then now I'm getting them at 3 points per dollar. And it's, that would be one.
While you're thinking, I can add a few more common ones that we see, and Travis, feel free to do the same. I think biggest mistakes we see with business owners and card spend, especially with high business spend, we see a lack of diversification in points. See a lot of people who are like, I have 5 million points in this one particular program and I have nothing anywhere else. And that gets them into all sorts of situations where it's like, wow, there's all these great deals except for the one that you have, and diversifying here would have made a lot more sense. And also diversifying across banks, just from like a bank relationship standpoint. Like, I'm sure it'd be pretty disastrous for you, Neill, if your accounts were compromised with a particular bank. That's the only place you have your business credit cards. Now, all of a sudden you can't buy things as a business. Great to have a backup bank in place, or to allocate the credit limits so that you can hit some of these or pay some of these bills without having to cycle your credit card all the time. That's a common one. Travis, any others jump to mind for you?
Yeah, probably one of the biggest ones that I see is business owners who are more likely to get started in points and miles are already traveling for business. And their mindset is, I'm already flying Delta a lot, so let me get a Delta card. Without realizing that all you're doing is locking yourself further into Delta, which when it comes to redeeming, especially if you're using your points for a personal side, like that diversification opens other options for you. So, I think, Neill, you're doing it really right. You're getting some of those American miles, you're getting that status, and then moving on to other things. You're not putting all of your eggs in one basket with a single program. You're maximizing the return you can get on your business spend there, and then moving elsewhere. And that's what I advise a lot of business owners to think about is, if all you have is Delta miles and Delta's charging you 200,000 points for a trip versus United charging 50,000, well, you don't really have any other options. Or if Delta and their partners don't have any flight availability, then you just don't have any options. And so by diversifying those points and actually expanding outside of your comfort zone can actually open more opportunities for you.
Yeah. And I think, zooming out a little bit, just the mindset you mentioned earlier, Neill, of like, all right, just found points to miles. I'm a business owner. I got a lot going on. This looks like a lot of work. So I'm just like, I'm not one of those people. Like, I'm going to focus on my business. I'm not going to pay attention, which that's a choice anyone can make, fine. I think a lot of them don't realize like the true scale of value that they're passing up, even if you don't play like the active game. Like, I put this spend here, I allocate this like this, I open new cards. If you just take like 30 minutes, maybe at most, and we have some new tools that'll be coming online at 10x soon to help business owners with this. But like the difference between earning, 1% and 2% cash back, or 1x versus 3x on travel, times the millions of dollars to spend over the course of a year, you're talking about tens of thousands of dollars difference just by choosing the wrong card or not kind of putting much thought into it at all. And that actually adds up to material value for business owners that they don't even realize they're missing out until they run into like Neill at a restaurant in Ushuaia. And it's like, oh yeah, where are you staying? Like, I got the whole floor booked over here. Like, I just used some points and they're like, oh, oops.
On to Travis had a really, really nice one about locking yourself in. I think the other thing that I would say about that is see how high in an airline status you really need to go. Because I chased executive platinum until I realized that what's the one below executive platinum? Just platinum or
I think just platinum.
yeah. And then so like the only difference is you get like a free extra luggage and you get like 48 versus 72 hours on your first class upgrade. But the spend between the two is almost $175,000 between the gap. So my buddy who also does the exact same status because he's always on the same routes we're on, he doesn't go all the way up to executive platinum. And once he gets that one below it, then he's just on to his next card and his next spend because there's really not that much more to get when you go above that level. So when you are chasing, because that's where you want to get as a business owner, like you've got enough points that now it's all about getting your status. The top tier status is not always exactly what you need. And you could probably spread your status out a little bit more if you were to just get to the point you need to get to on each of them.
Yeah, status often becomes an irrational game of just pursuing the gold sticker.
You want clout? Yeah, you want the gold star, you want clout.
Yeah, like they don't even look at what they get. All they know is someone has higher status than me, and therefore, like I need to catch them. It's like this weird, totally nonsensical place that people get into, and it's hard to talk them out of it.
They don't ask, does it make sense for me? It's just, I just want it.
But do I get a shiny bag tag, Travis, so that everyone in the boarding area knows that I'm special?
My favorite thing is if with American you get the little vouchers. Have you seen them before? You get them in the mail where you can. It's like a you did a good job. You give them to the flight attendants. You give them to the pilots. You give them to the lady at the checkout counter. I wish I had stacks of them. I love giving them out to everybody. Everybody throws them in the garbage. She's like, oh, these things are silly. No, I keep them in my fanny pack right next to my passport. And I get on the boat and then I get on the plane and they come up with like a little like, oh, thank you for flying with us, Mr. Drake. I'm like, here's your card. You did an awesome job. I'll chase status just for the idea to give somebody else those and make their day a little bit better. Those are the best.
You're just like rolling onto the plane, like inventing Anna with 20s or hundreds. Like, here you go. Here you go. Thank you. You're Dumb and Dumber, That's for you. That's for you. That's what it feels like. Yeah. So kind of moving into the last phase here, kind of talking about like the upcoming trip here that you're helping us put on to Antarctica in February of 2027. And listeners, at the time of recording here, we still have beds for sale. I think the ship is like almost a little over 2/3 sold. We still have well over a year in advance. Like award space is not even available yet for this, but it's been a huge hit with our readers because of course they're very into travel. Antarctica is one of those unique destinations that's kind of difficult to do like on your own or in a small group, because you kind of have to team up with a boat and other people to make it happen. But the fact that we're able to put together a ship that is all points and miles people from 10X Travel, it's with a partner that we know and has done this quite a bit. We're all super excited about it. But I'm curious, Neill, what should we be kind of most excited about, or what would you tell to folks who are like maybe on the fence, not sure if they want to watch seals eat penguins? It's just like, oh, that seems interesting. Why should I go? Like, what would be your response to that kind of question?
I mean, Antarctica sells itself. Right? It's either you want to go or you don't want to see Antarctica. And I think that side of it is already been well covered. I'm really excited for this group of people because we have a WhatsApp chat. For anybody who doesn't know or has been kind of listening, we have a WhatsApp chat with everybody who's going on it. And it's a very active, very social trip. And everybody in this community all has like a really common theme to them. There's a spirit to this trip. And I'm really looking forward to the conversations we're going to have around the bar and have a couple of drinks. I can see there's going to be a lot of morale on this trip. I can see karaoke night being hilarious. I can see that, I think that kind of stuff.
You could do like Jeopardy, like points and miles Jeopardy.
Oh,
I'll take transfer bonuses for 1,000, Neill.
We'll build like a little bingo card, like an expedition bingo card.
Oh, yes, this is happening.
I think that, I'm super excited to sail with you and your team. I think that, the trip itself, for those who don't know, I'll be on board. I like to go on and kind of MC the thing. I make sure that everything is going up to snuff. I've got a couple of things that I have learned in the industry. So every company kind of has its own lane, like every operator. So we're going with Albatross, which is partnered with Polar Latitudes now. They have a lane that they stay in because they have to deliver a consistent product for every single person that goes on. And they kind of have their program set the way it is. I've moved around the industry a lot as a guide, so I've learned some things here that might not necessarily be in the lane of this company, but since it's our charter, we get to do these kinds of things. They're a little more exciting, maybe a little more adventurous, maybe a little more for like private group sort of things. And I don't want to give any spoilers or anything like that. We're not going to go like, jumping out of helicopters or anything like that, but just things that would overall make the experience a little more, like I said, morale, like a little bit morale.
Yep.
We got the polar plunge. We got those kinds of things that we're going to be doing. So I also think just in the general space of the Antarctic industry, you know, we sell trips every single day. And I say for the value that we've put together with this charter, we've actually substantially lowered the price of it compared to retail because we want to make it accessible to everybody. And we've given a lot of inclusions you don't typically get. All-inclusive drink packages are not a common thing in Antarctica. We made it so that you didn't have to think about, oh my God, how's my bill going to be at the end of the trip, right? The kayaking is free, you know, so we've got a lot of value adds to it to make this just a very attractive, competitive offer. And you get to sail with everybody in the 10X community as well as yourself and your team, me and my team. And I just think that we're putting together, like, if you were ever thinking about going to Antarctica, this is the one you're going to want to go to. And it's not getting any cheaper. Like, Antarctica every year goes up between 10 or 15%. So if you're like, oh, I got to wait 2 more years to do it, I would start to consider how expensive it's going to get in the future, because it's getting harder and it's getting more expensive. So, and you know, it's just like anything else in the world. Restrictions are getting a little bit tighter, and there's going to be a limited amount of ships, and then that's going to increase. There's going to be a increase in demand and a lower supply. So pricing's going to get a little bit higher. It's like now we're in that Cinderella phase of it where it's like, now's the time to go.
If I can add from a significantly less amount of experience as Neill, but as someone who went for fun, something to keep in mind is, like, you're on a boat with a bunch of people that you don't necessarily know. And having this like-minded community gives instant recognition, instant bonding, that even if you don't know another person, you already know you have something in common. That's going to give you more spontaneous chances to meet people, to build connections, give you a launching point for conversation, to get to know the people that you're traveling with and to make friends. It's going to, again, like, not to be ironic, but it's going to give natural icebreakers that you won't really get with just going on your own. You know, I'm planning to be there too. Bryce is planning to be there. So you'll get to come up and see us and pick our minds. But there's really something special about being on a trip with new people, but knowing that you already have a common point of interest. It gives you this sense of collegiality. If I didn't just make up a word, you know, it's like going to a college football game, and if someone has your same school jersey on, like, you know that, like, you're probably going to get along. It's the same idea. You know, we're just all showing up in our 10X jerseys, or, you know, maybe a jacket, but point is, like, there'll be that point of commonality between people, and that's not something that you can really get on any trip.
We're the first night, we're going to do speed friending.
Oh, beautiful.
It's like speed dating, but for friending. So, like, we'll get everybody, like, because we'll be in the Beagle Channel, so we won't be in the drink passages quite yet. So first night, couple champagnes, we're going to do like speed date, like speed friending. Everybody can kind of like get to know each other a little, like you said, icebreakers. And then from there, it's just smooth sailing. It's just like hopefully. Okay. And then maybe not smooth sailing, maybe a Drake shake, let's say. So.
Well, and here's the thing, because, like, when I talk to people about going, and Neill, I'm sure you hear the same, like, the biggest things people always talk about is, oh, but what about the Drake Passage? You know, when I talked to people before I went, you know what no one talked about was the Drake Passage. People who had been talked about their experience in Antarctica, and even those who had a bad time on the Drake Passage, that wasn't what they brought up. I've never heard anyone who's gone who said, yeah, but I wouldn't go again because of the Drake Passage.
I'm afraid of the layover in Miami, for the record.
I'm a big believer and an advocate for, I want there to be a rough Drake Passage on the way down and a smooth one on the way home. Because Antarctica is a postcard. It's gorgeous. It's beautiful. But there's a lot of history, and we talk a lot about the Shackleton era, like, you know, all those stuff. And when you sail through the Drake Passage when it's rough and you're on your way to Antarctica, it puts into perspective what they went through in their wooden ships without stabilizers and GPS and Gore-Tex, you know? So, like, you get to, like, you just get a little taste of it. And you're like, I'm in this brand new luxury vessel and I'm uncomfortable. Like, where were they going through? But when you arrive in Antarctica after a rough Drake passage, there's a unified camaraderie of like, we earned this, we deserve this. This is our gift for what we just went through. And I'm not saying like, the ships that we're taking are so comfortable. Like they're not. Who'd you go with, Travis?
Ocean Line on Ortelius.
Okay, I worked on the Ortelius. So Ortelius is a great ship to go through, and that's one of my favorites. We're on like, if Ortelius is good, like the ship we're going on is here. So even in a really bad Drake passage, it's not going to be rocking and rolling, but you can see it and you can appreciate it. But I mean, I worked on a ship like back in the day before we had stabilizers, and we were in a really bad rough Drake passage, and we had people like strapped to their beds. We'd like open the door, throw them a sandwich, then close the door, So, but even in my metric for is it bad or not is this soup still on the menu? And the ship that we're taking, I've failed 40 times down to Antarctica, and we've never pulled soup on this ship. So I want people to feel a little bit better about it. But there is this, like, when you go through it, you feel like you deserved it. Like you go down a Drake Lake, and it's kind of like, it's like finishing a marathon on a Segway. Like, did you earn it? And then I want the smooth sailing home so that we can, like, the trip is over. We're dancing, we're drinking, we're having a good time, we're socializing. We got, you and your team will have your presentations and your talks and your mingles and stuff like that kind of stuff. So that's the way a proper trip should run. Rough going down, smooth coming home.
We can only hope for that. Yeah, I'll take smooth both ways, but yeah, if only one way, rough on the way down. It almost feels like it feels like landing on the moon. Maybe it's kind of like you have to go through this like journey to get to this place that not many people go. And like I say that as someone who has obviously not been to the moon yet. I don't know, Neill, you got any plans for business expansion in the near future? Let's talk about going to the moon. But the camaraderie, like it sounds like friendships come out of this. You have folks who've traveled with you before, Neill, who then travel again on cruises with you or other trips, and like you just form these kind of bonds.
We have WhatsApp chats for all of our group trips, and every week it's like some of the people that were on this trip from December 2022, they're texting us like, "Oh, look who I'm in Egypt with. Look who I'm in Morocco with.
Wow.
Look who I'm in the Arctic." Like these bonds form. Because like Travis had mentioned, you're in an already like a collegially or a collegially you're
It's
in
pronounced Ushuaia, guys. Ushuaia.
like you're in a club, and you're going to meet people, and you're going to just gravitate to people that have the same interests as you. And then especially when you're in the point world, you're going to find people who are earning points like you're earning points, and you're going to talk about it. And then you're going to be like, "Oh, we should go to the Maldives together. Oh, we should go to Japan together. Did you see this redemption? We should totally do this." And next thing you know, you're going to see them everywhere, and they're going to all go together. It's a very unifying trip. There's this sense of like, I always say this, and this is kind of how we can kind of, close the Antarctica thing is, when you get home, you can tell your friends how blue the icebergs were, how goofy the penguins were, how rough the Drake Passage was. You can tell them all about that kind of stuff. But there's what you'll never, when they ask you how your trip is, how it was, you will never be able to describe to them the feeling you felt when you were in Antarctica. It's something that you can only experience for yourself to understand. And there was no words you could ever say to convey somebody that feeling that when you were there, the significance of being so small, the magical wonderment, the frost on your face. And then it comes down to the relationships that you built and the community you were a part of. You feel like you're in the club, like you're in this secret society of have been theirs, and you will never be able to tell anybody. It's going to be the hard. People ask, what's the hardest thing about going to Antarctica? And they think it's the flights of Drake Passage. It's coming home and answering the question, how was it? Because it'll be so challenging to find the words. And Travis, like, does that feel like that resonates with you?
Absolutely. Like anytime I'm talking to someone about this, and if you've come to any of our meetups where you've asked me about Antarctica, you know that I tell you I'm happy to show pictures, and all I can say is this doesn't do it justice. Like I cannot describe into words. And anytime someone gives me hesitation or says, well, I'm not interested, I just tell them, you want to go and you just don't know it. Like if you tell me you don't want to go, you're just lying to me. You might not know that, and you might not have that realization, but it is, I've had the fortunate ability because of this work to go to a lot of places on Earth, and none have hit that chord with me, like in my soul, as much as Antarctica did. And it sounds so fluffy and hard to describe because it just is. It's just something that you have to go and experience for yourself, because if you don't, you won't understand it.
One thing that we touch on with that sort of that idea is that there's nothing in the world that can prepare you for it, right? If you go to the Taj Mahal, the Great Wall of China, you go, any sort of the pyramids, any major destination, like you could go on Google Images, you get a really good idea of what you're about to see. You can know exactly what it's going to be like. There's so much information in all these other places, but Antarctica is only visited by 120,000 people a year, and that's only in recent years. Prior to COVID, it was 40 to 60,000 a year. Do the math. That's how the total number of people that have gone to Antarctica are what you'll find at the Taj Mahal on every single day. So you could Google the photos all you want, but nothing will prepare you for going. Like, I could tell you exactly what the expedition is going to be like. I could tell you what the daily routine is going to be like. I can tell you what time we're having breakfast, what time we're going out, what we're doing when we're out there, that we're going for walks. I can't prepare you for the sound of the ice underneath your boots. I can't prepare you for when your Zodiac, the sound of the Zodiac pulling up on the beach and the pebbles, like scratching the bottom of your surface, and the first time you touch the land, and the expedition leader welcoming you onto shore, and the team putting their arms on. I can't prepare you. I can tell it to you, but I can't prepare you for it. Anywhere else you go in the world, you can feel prepared because you're going to do the research. Antarctica will, no matter what, will always be a surprise. And the part about it that we love the most is I truly feel it's the last place in the world where you can feel like you're still on an expedition and still feel like you're an explorer, because there is so much uncertainty and unknowns when we're in Antarctica. The weather changes. Like, we make a joke that when we build the plan, we have plan A. Before we're on the ship, we're on plan C. After the next breakfast, we're on plan F. And by the end of the trip, we have made so many different plans because the weather is moving, the weather is changing. The captain is working with the expedition leader, and I'm working with them. And we'll be somewhere, and we'll be wrapping up the day, and I'll look overside and the weather's perfect. I look at the expedition leader and I'm like, we're doing the polar plunge right now. Let the crew know, let the dining room know, we're going to be late to dinner. We're going over the ship. We're doing the polar plunge right now. Like, it's so fluid. So there's no preparation for it. And you genuinely feel like you're on an expedition because you have to remain flexible at all times. And it's just, you really feel like you're there. There's no hospitals. There's no hotels. There's this sense of, we kind of give it this perceived sense of danger because there is a lot of things to consider. It's a very safe operation. It's the safest operation you can ask for compared to flying planes. But it's an expedition, and it's unpredictable the whole way through. And that's what makes it so much fun and so attractive and appealing while we're there. And that's the best I could do to sell Antarctica to anybody who hasn't decided to go yet.
And we'll see if we can make sure that the soup day lines up with the cold plunge, because I'd love to hop out warm soup. Let's do this.
We have hot tubs. Oh, polar plunge to the hot tub.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I did not know that. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
That changes things.
And a sauna. So.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. Well, I was already committed to going, but
now you're totally
now more excited about going. And I guess, Neill, where can folks find more information about your company, the trip, like the specific details of everything, and consider booking?
So if you're interested in the 10X trip, it's 10xantarctica.com. Don't forget the first C. Everybody forgets the first C. You can type in 10xantarctica.com. That's all the information for our trip. We do have, most cabin categories are sold out. We do have a couple, I think, shared balcony cabins left. We've extended the pay in full promotion for anybody who wants to take advantage of that. You get a couple extra bonuses when you do the pay in full. We do register as travel, so you'll get 3X when you pay. And then the people who take advantage of that will get the consult with the 10X team and some other perks you can look at, free kayaking, stuff like that. It's all on the website, 10x.com. If you're interested in looking more about us, so the company name is Antarctica Travel Group, and we're currently in the process of a transition to letsgopolar.com. So you can check out
I like that.
Let's Go Polar, because now we're doing a lot more Arctic also. And who knows, after a very nice, successful, and incredible 10X trip to Antarctica, Greenland, Svalbard might be on. I know Travis definitely wants to hit the Arctic next, I would think.
Oh, yeah.
Let's go see some polar bears, because Bryce, they make polar bear suits like they make penguin suits. So you're going to
see polar bear is a little more dangerous to dress up as an animal and run out on the ice, right?
Make some room in your closet for it. So so let's go polar.com. And then, let's say, for example, you want to go to Antarctica, the charter dates don't work for you or something like that. You go to Let's Go Polar, find a trip you like, send us a message that you came through us through 10X, and we will give you a nice, friends and family discount is coming through the 10X family. Like I said, I'm a 10Xer myself, and we're happy to pass some savings along on for anybody within the community if you're still interested in going. Maybe you got something committed that year or something like that. We're happy to help you find a trip that really works out for you. We'd love for you to come on the 10X trip, but we understand that it just not might be in the case. And just let us know that you're part of the 10X group, and we'll take care of you.
And we certainly hope to do more after this first one to wherever in the world, but especially back to Antarctica again. But, this isn't happening until early 2027. So if you're listening to this, you're a business owner, as we've been talking about, you're like, wow, I would love to go on that, but I don't know how I'm going to get flights to points and miles. There's still time. Take some of the basic moves. Check out our website for some resources on business owners and how to choose the right card, earn the right points, so you can start doing trips like this, whether they be this one, the next one, other ones done by Let's Go Polar. We can help. So, Travis, Neill, anything else here before we wrap?
Yeah, on that, actually, you made a great point. If you are a business owner and you want to come on this trip, I promise that I will sit down with you and I will listen to a sales pitch. I will listen to you talk about your business. And who knows, maybe you can justify this with your accountant that does it as a business trip. If you come talk business with us.
There we go. We should just bring an accountant to be like, help me fill out the paperwork for this.
Yeah.
We'll notarize it.
That's totally in the realm. So I will listen to your sales pitch and your business thing. If you're looking for a tax write-off, this trip is definitely qualifies.
There we go. I'm wondering who we can invite who has like the longest pitch. That'd be cool. Travis, anything else before Neill jets off to Green Bay?
Nah, go Packers, I hope. I don't know.
Yeah, Green Bay and Minneapolis. You go visit some family that's up there. So
wonderful. Well, we hope you have a great trip. We appreciate you joining us here on the podcast today. For everyone listening, we thank you. This has been Takeoff, a Points and Miles podcast by 10X Travel. We will talk to you next time, or maybe we'll see you in Antarctica.